What is up, guys? Today I wanted to do a pretty short video, relatively short compared to some of my other stuff, which you should be doing if you're into bodybuilding or really, again, just trying to make significant, impactful changes to your physique. Then one of the more challenging aspects of that can be how to approach missteps. Missteps happen. They happen to everybody. It's just part of the process, especially as you're getting into things for the first time, kind of learning how to navigate bodybuilding and really learning how to manage your time investment. Managing a real life job, kids, family, obligations to your partner, even if you have pets, managing all that stuff with a bodybuilding lifestyle thrown on top is a very different kind of animal for most people who haven't done it before or who haven't fully committed to it before. Right? So what will happen a lot of times, and what I see happen with a lot of clients, and the reason I'm bringing this up is I'll see something happen where, to give an example, let's say a client is eating 1,000 calories per day. That's their set amount. And then one day they're really falling off the rails. They just kind of get stressed out and they go and binge, right? There's a lot of different reasons they could do so. Let's put reasoning aside and just say they go out and binge eat. They have, a whole pizza, a milkshake, and then some candy as a dinner, right? That's a 5,000 calorie meal. It's almost their entire week up to that point. They've consumed it now in one meal at the end of the week, on the weekend, right? What a lot of people will do when they have something like this happen, they're going to feel like shit. You're going to wake up the next day, or even right after you finish the meal, you're going to say, that was stupid. I fucking regret this. I hate myself. This is so dumb. I just ruined my progress. What's the point? Why am I doing this? And that's where people start to fall off. That's where that adherence and that kind of mental stress starts to get to people. And you have to be better than that. And I get that that's hard. It's easier to say that than to just say, well, be better. When I say be better, I don't mean don't let it happen. Obviously, we want to minimize that. But things like that happen. They do. Again, even to the best of us. So if those happen, those situations arise, whether it's binge eating, under eating, and we'll get into some more examples here in a minute, don't overcorrect. And that is my whole point about what I want to talk about here. Do not overcorrect. Overcorrecting in the other direction is more detrimental than just taking it as it is and continuing to move on. So what I mean by overcorrection, using the example I just gave, someone goes and eats 4,000, 5,000 calories above what they're supposed to be eating. They binge eat. They blow their whole week of progress on paper. What a lot of people will do is they'll get into this mental space where, again, they're really just upset about that. And then the next day they'll go and they'll say, okay, so I had 5,000 calories yesterday. I fucked up. Today I'm going to have 0. I'm just not going to eat, right? Or I'm going to have an egg and that's it. I'm not going to have anything else. And I'm going to run 3 times as many more miles as I normally would. I'm going to go, instead of doing a mile run, I'm going to do 3 miles today. So I'm going to burn more and eat less, and I'll play catch up. It'll be fine. That is really fucking bad. Don't do that. Do not do that. Amongst the reasons not to do that, primarily, that kind of behavior, that kind of way of thinking, rather, can lead to really bad behavioral patterns developing. Notably eating disorders. If you start to enforce that or start to try and overcorrect as a compensation mechanism for your shortcomings, it now becomes habit and not a correction. So, let's say to compensate for the 4,000 extra calories they ate during that meal, they don't eat for 4 days. I know that's a little unrealistic, but let's just say they don't eat for 4 days and they're like, hey, now I'm at the same amount and I got to enjoy a big meal. It sucked because I was starving the last 4 days, but okay, now I'm really hungry again. And when that hunger peaks, because now you've been starving for the past 4 days, you're going to binge again. And so you can see how very quickly it gets into this binge eating behavior where you're binging and then starving, binging, starving. And that is, it's literally an eating disorder. That is a really bad place to be in. And that's just a dietary example. There's other examples of this as applied to recovery or training as well. Let's say, you're going to go on a 3-day vacation to see family, right? Just a holiday vacation. You're going to go Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you're out of town. So you're like, okay, I'm not going to be lifting Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm going to go and I'm going to do a 6-hour arm session on Thursday instead of taking my rest when it should be. Now, if you're just doing a normal session on Thursday instead, let's say you move your Friday session to Thursday and you're not like overcompensating, you're not doing, triple the amount of work within that one session, that's fine. That's okay. But if you're going and you're trying to squeeze 3 days worth of sessions into what should be a rest day, just so you can compensate for being out of town and having that time off from the gym, that can be really bad. You can suffer an acute injury. You're overexerting yourself. And let's say, you tear a bicep or something. You don't want to put yourself in a position with any aspect of bodybuilding, whether it's nutrition, training, or recovery, where you are trying to compensate for something that has not yet occurred, or overcorrect again for something that has occurred in the case of dieting. To go back to the dieting example, if that's something that happens, you binge, that's fine. Let your coach know, or, just acknowledge it, suck it up, and continue on with the planned diet. Don't try and cut extra calories out. Don't try and do more cardio. Continue with the plan. One bad day does not define a whole month of bodybuilding, a whole year, a whole decade. It doesn't define this whole big time period. Yes, does it have an impact? Absolutely. Would you be better off if you didn't have that binge meal? Sure. But at the end of the day, that one meal, that one day, those aren't going to define your entire span of what you're trying to accomplish within the realms of your physique goals, right? So keep that in mind and just try to approach it logically and with a good mindset. And when mistakes happen, accept it, understand that it's a mistake, learn from it, improve on it, and continue down the path you were on. Again, to fall back to training, don't try and overcompensate or over-adjust. If let's say you got back from a week vacation, you went out of country for a week, and you're like, okay, I have a ton of energy. I'm gonna hit the gym, twice as much this week. I'm gonna do a morning session and a night session. No, stick to your plan. Especially if you have a good coach, like something I will do for clients is, if we know that they need to take a deload at some point, their fatigue's getting really high, their food fatigue is getting high, let's say in an off-season phase, we know they need to pull back and kind of just let things, drop off a little bit, let that fatigue kind of reset. I'll say, yeah, we're going to take a week. Make that your vacation. Do your vacation during that time. Take a little trip. Take time off from the gym. Enjoy your time off. And that kind of almost leads into another topic, which is bodybuilding is a lifestyle, but you also have to find regular ways, or rather ways to live a regular life around bodybuilding. And that's a whole nother conversation. But bodybuilding is great until it comes at the detriment of everything else you want to do in life. Obviously, you're going to have to make sacrifices. You're going to have to make changes, lifestyle changes predominantly, but there's a lot that's going to be impacted choosing to do bodybuilding, especially competitively. Most of those things are acceptable, but there are certain things where it's like you have to make time for them. You have to accept that you have a life outside of bodybuilding too. I coach some guys who, I see that they're perfect on paper. I'm like, you haven't had a cheat meal in 6 weeks. You haven't had even a diet soda in 6 weeks. You have been absolutely perfect. And then I think about it and I'm like, I like to know my clients a little bit. And I'm like, don't you have a wife? Like, aren't you married? They're like, yeah. I'm like, when was the last time, and then I'll kind of get into it where I'm like, okay, this week I want you to have a cheat meal. Not on your own. I don't want you to go to In-N-Out or Wendy's or Five Guys and get 2 burgers and fries. No, I want you to go to like a steakhouse or, an Italian place, go anywhere decent and take your wife out for a meal. And remember that. Don't forget about these other aspects of your life just so you can focus on bodybuilding. Because at the end of the day, it comes back to what I was just saying. If you have one bad day, and going out for a meal doesn't have to be a bad day, but if you have one bad day, it's not even going to impact your whole month, okay, in the grand scheme of things. And you can go out and enjoy life in an intelligent way that meets your bodybuilding-based goals, doesn't take away from them, and allows you to enjoy other aspects of just normal life, right? So you have to allow yourself time for that. Now, to get back to the original whole point of this video, which is overcorrection. The third area I see people trying to overcorrect is recovery. And this one becomes a little more complex because it's almost hard to make an argument against it, more so the behaviors that encourage it. But let's say, you're, in my example, coaching someone who is still in that mindset of like, I need to go out and have drinks with my friends on the weekend. I need to go out and, party. I need to have this huge social circle all the time that I maintain. And I think most mature people gravitate away from that, but there are still people who do that, right? And I would say that if you're still seeing a client go and do those things, or you're doing them yourself, let's say they go out on a weekend and, they're up till 4 a.m, and then they wake up at 8 to go to the gym. They get no sleep, they're under recovered. And their idea of overcompensating for that is, oh, I'll just wake up, I'll go to the gym, I'll come home, and then I'll fall asleep at 4 p.m. and sleep through the whole night. And again, this is a little bit of a more difficult one to approach because it's like, well, okay, you're catching up on your rest. You're not necessarily doing anything wrong there, but the error in that line of thinking is I'm going to go to the gym and then I'm going to recover. If you got 4 hours of sleep, I don't want you anywhere near a fucking weight. You're not going to be doing anything productive for yourself. You're not recovered. The chances of injuring yourself are higher within that singular session. So I would say if you have a bad day, you fall off like that in terms of, not meeting your recovery standards, you need to be logical with what your next steps are. And rather than just continuing on as normal and then overcorrecting on your recovery, say, listen, okay, I need to compensate for my recovery. I need to get more sleep. Today has to be a day I don't do the gym and I limit my cardio and I just rest, recover, get a full night's sleep, and wake up and go fresh the next day. So there's a lot of different ways to approach it, from nutrition training and recovery. There's some nuanced situations, but the whole point that I'm trying to make here is don't overcorrect, don't overcompensate, don't try to fix something that isn't necessarily broken. If you have an issue, if you make a mistake, that's fine. That's just a natural part of being human. Bodybuilders, whether we like to think we are not always robotic. We can't be the perfect person. We try to be, but shit happens, and you're not always going to have that. You could even have something out of your control come up as far as an emergency goes, and that's going to throw things off. Don't try to fix those issues by doing things that are different than what you would normally do. Accept the mistake, accept the problem, understand it, take what is needed to address it correctly, and don't overcorrect, don't overcompensate. Continue on the path, and you will be right as rain. Give it a week, okay? Remember, one bad day does not dictate an entire year of bodybuilding. It's that simple. And until next time, guys, take it easy. I will see you in the next video.